Welcome back to GSMC's Down by Contact Sports Podcast. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Wednesday, February 26th. If you are just tuning in, we just finished going over the Lakers getting a massive win in a revenge game over the Dallas Mavericks, 107-99 last night. In this segment, we turn our attention to the rest of the NBA. The NBA Power Rankings coming up for you in just a second, but before we do, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you're on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Wednesday, February 26th. But like I was saying, we are going to get into our NBA Power Rankings. We're going to kick off right where we left off. At number 30, the Washington Wizards. The Wizards continue to be the worst team in the NBA, and it really isn't that close. They went and got a couple talented guys in Marcus Smart and Chris Middleton, but really, it's not going to do much for them at the end of the day. They have just 10 wins on the year. That's at least four more losses than anybody else in the NBA at this point, and we're looking at a team that is just hoping and praying they can grab a guy like Cooper Flag with the first overall pick in next year's draft. At 29, we have the New Orleans Pelicans. Talk about a team that's dealt with the worst injury luck. It's the same thing every time we talk about this team. This is a team that I think could be really good. They really could be. They have the potential. They've got the players. But this is a team that just does not have the injury luck this year to do anything when it comes to winning basketball right now. At 28, we've got the Jazz. A young team, not anywhere close. They're probably around the same tier as the Wizards right now. Another young team that just isn't quite ready yet. You get a couple top-tier guys in the building. The Utah Jazz could potentially be something in the next couple years, but they're not looking at that right now. They've got a long rebuild ahead of them. At 27, we've got the Hornets, another team that's been hit with injuries. They had a little bit of a promising start this year, a near all-star appearance for LaMelo Ball. Right, this is a Charlotte Hornets team that has potential with its players, but it just feels like they're that one really big piece away from doing anything huge when it comes to the Eastern Conference. At number 26, it's the 76ers. We talked a lot about them this week, especially around Joel Embiid. It sounds like he is not coming back for the rest of the season, and that sucks for this Philadelphia 76ers. But this is a Sixers team that has more problems than Joel Embiid. This might be a very serious surgery. Not sure when he comes back. He might have to miss a large chunk of next season. He didn't even play in 20 games this year. It's tough. You're paying him a lot of money. Injuries hit every single big player on this team, and everything just fell apart this year for the Philadelphia 76ers. At 25, we've got the Raptors. The addition of Brandon Ingram hasn't done too much for them, but he's a nice little piece that if they can continue to build around the success they had last NBA season, I know this year hasn't been very good, they could be on the fringe of an NBA play-in team next year, maybe even a playoff team if they make the right moves in the offseason. At 24, we have the Nets, a team that's trying to lose but just has too many solid pieces right now to really be the worst in the league. They've been really good right now. When they get hot shooting, they're really hard to beat. Now, the Wizards have taken care of them twice in this quick little stretch, but outside of the Wizards, not a lot of teams have been able to beat the Nets right now. They're trying not to lose. Their players are. They traded everybody away. They're still going to have a top pick, but they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot right now with a couple clutch plays over the Sixers and a couple other teams that they've managed to beat recently. At 23, we've got the Bulls. Matthias Buzelis has really shown up as a pretty solid piece for them this year, but they're still a team that I think should be preparing for the future, right? They've kind of kicked the can down the road of a pseudo-rebuild for a very long time, but now they finally get to it. They're finally able to move off of Zach LaVine this trade deadline, and now we can see a potential future for this team as they start to really embrace that rebuild. At 21, The Portland Trail Blazers. The Portland Trail Blazers have been a pretty good surprise this season, right? This is a Trailblazers team that isn't anything special, but 25 wins right now, a young roster that's continuing to get better. Denny Avdia has really shown up after leaving the Wizards, showing up with the Trailblazers. Scoot Henderson has developed pretty nicely this season. This is a team that has a lot of good pieces and still isn't dead in the West yet. If they can somehow find a way to sneak their way into a play-in spot, that would be wild, and it's not even out of the picture right now. They went on a pretty big win streak right before the All-Star break. If they can do that again, maybe they can find their way in this season, which would be a huge surprise. At 22, we had that backwards. Don't know how that happened, but either way, 22, it's the San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs, they lose the star of their organization, right? They lose Victor Wembanyama. Victor Wembanyama is out for the year. Greg Popovich not coming back this season. You have you have a really solid team that can continue to develop. Castle, young guy, De'Aaron Fox coming in, point guard of the future. Chris Paul being that solid veteran leadership. This team took a big step forward this season, but with injuries coming up against this team, it just hurts them a whole bunch. At number 20, we've got the Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks come in this season, and I mean, this has just been not great, right? They end up being sellers at the deadline, despite still having Trae Young on the roster. He's someone that they'd like to be able to build around, but every time the effort has come in to build around Trae Young, it just has not worked. And the Atlanta Hawks kind of slipping into that mediocre area in the NBA, where they kind of are stuck in NBA purgatory for a very long time. At number 19, the Phoenix Suns. Everything that kind of could have gone wrong with this trio has gone wrong. And it wasn't just the fact that on the court they're not really able to play together the way that you want a big three to be able to, but even when they tried to break it up, Bradley Beal potentially on the trade block this season, Kevin Durant potentially on the trade block this season to save some money, they weren't even able to break that up. And that really stings for a team that is so far over the cap, and they're still not going to be able to make any kind of noise in the playoffs this year. At 18, we have the Heat, a team that was kind of forced into a bad spot with Jimmy Butler this season. Tyler Hero has stepped up and played pretty good basketball this year. He's someone that if he can continue to play like this, they can maybe find their way out of this. Bam Adebayo hopefully steps up when they need him to. But this is a Heat team that's not really going to be too much of a threat, I think, when it comes to the postseason. They might find a way to win a play-in game, play-in series, potentially take a game or two from whoever they play at the top of the East, but I don't see them going too far. At 17, we have the Magic. When healthy, this Magic team is great. They still struggle with shooting the three, and that is their big weakness, but their defense, pretty good. And again, when healthy, this is a team that I think could be very dangerous. They're just not healthy right now, and they haven't really been healthy all season. At 16, we have the Kings. I like the pairing of DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine, as well as pairing him up with Domantas Sabonis down low. It's not a super flashy big three, but this is a team that has a lot of solid players. I still think this is a team that, can maybe make a little bit of noise in the playoffs. They're not out of it yet, but in the West, a tough Western Conference, they're not getting anything done. Going back to the Spurs, Andre says he was excited for the playoffs going from Wemby, but going from Wemby to Biyombo just hurts. You're right, it does, and that sucks with the Spurs, but they'll be back and better than ever next season because the Spurs have a great coach, potentially, if Popovich does come back, and Wemby, who you can already see the potential for him to be the best player in the world, even in the next couple of seasons, which is very exciting. He's just a fun guy to watch, and you hope that the blood clot doesn't sideline him for too far into his career. At number 15, we have the Dallas Mavericks. The Dallas Mavericks trade of Luka has been a disaster, right? You don't even have the piece that put you into quote-unquote win-now mode, right, with Anthony Davis. But Max Christie has been a pretty solid throw-in guy. He's been someone that's really stepped up when given minutes now that he's playing for Dallas. It just sucks. There's not really a positive spin right now. They made the finals last year, and now this team is just completely out of whack and directionless. At 14, we have the Clippers. This is a Clippers team that has been a big, pleasant surprise for me. I expected them to be near the bottom of the league this season, but they've completely shocked me. The Los Angeles Clippers continue to dominate, or I shouldn't say dominate, but play pretty good basketball. They're setting themselves up to make it potentially to the second round if they get the right matchup. But again, in a tight Western Conference, it's not going to be easy. The Pistons at 13. You see that up there. They've won 7 straight games. The Detroit Pistons have won 32 games this season. They're playing Boston right now. And before we started this segment, halfway through the third quarter, they were up by 7 points on the Boston Celtics. This is a team that is hot right now, and it will potentially make a run in the Eastern Conference, especially a weak Eastern Conference. The way that they're playing right now, they can beat just about anybody, and they're showing that tonight. At number 12, we have the Warriors. They've rattled off a couple wins since Jimmy Butler came over. I love that pairing. We talked about it when that trade happened, but the pairing of Steph Curry, who's an excellent off-ball and on-ball guy, he just constantly gets so much attention that you have to double him at all times, and you leave Jimmy Butler open one-on-one, he's going to cook you if you give him that space because he's just a very special player in the NBA. It might not be enough in a good Western Conference, but this should absolutely push them above that play-in line at a minimum. At number 11, the Timberwolves. They had a huge win, a huge comeback win last time out against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Anthony Edwards is playing like one of the best players on the planet right now. He's amazing, so much fun to watch. This is a Timberwolves team that feels like it's not really ready to win a championship this year, but if they keep building the way that they're building this team, maybe find a way to get a little bit cheaper, get some young guys, this is a team maybe with a secondary scorer so Anthony Edwards doesn't have to drop 40 every night for them to win. This is a Minnesota Timberwolves team that could do some damage. At 10, we've got the Bucks. We've seen a huge turnaround from the beginning of the season, right? But Giannis and Dame continue to be great. We saw them win a couple games after the All-Star break. Kyle Kuzma's entered the lineup. He hasn't been a game changer for them, but he hasn't been a negative like he kind of was for the Wizards this season. Change of scenery does him well. I don't know if it's enough for the Bucks to really make a title run, but I think this is a Bucks team that did improve a little bit. At 9, we've got the Pacers. Getting into the top 10, this is just an underwhelming team, right? There's not really a guy that you look at as a superstar. Tyrese Halliburton, maybe, Pascal Siakam, who makes the playoffs, right? Miles Turner, who continues to be a rock over there in that organization. Benedict Mathurin, who's really shown up off the bench as a pretty great scorer, but this is a team that just plays really good basketball, really good team basketball. And if they continue to play this way, maybe they can make a run like last season. At 8, we have got the Rockets. They've kind of slid a little bit since the beginning of the year. They were sitting at number 2 in the West early on this season, for most of the season, actually. But we're starting to see the age and lack of three-point shooting catch up to them a little bit. That defense is still really good, and that's what's keeping them alive. They should be a dangerous team in the playoffs, but I think it was smart of them not to go all in at the deadline because you want to see what this team turns into, what their big weaknesses are, and then you can start to address it with a big-time move. At number 7, we have the New York Knicks. This is a team that has all the star power you want. The Cat trade has done wonders for them, but they don't have a center. The defense is lacking. As good as that offense is, it's hard to rely on your starters to play 40 to 48 minutes a game. It's just a lot. You're starting to see injuries catch up to them, and that's the issue when you have a Tom Thibodeau coach team. It's just you get the good with the bad. Jalen Brunson, amazing. Cat, amazing. Josh Hart should come back soon. This is a Knicks team that is still really good, but the defense is going to hurt them when they get to the big moments in the playoffs. The Grizzlies at 6. We talked a lot about this Grizzlies team in the last segment. I love this Grizzlies team. This is a team that I think starts off that list of contenders in the NBA. They've got the defense. They've got the superstar. They've got the offense. They've got the guys that are playing at MVP levels. They've got the depth. The rookies have really shown up for them this season. And this is a Grizzlies team that I think is going under the radar a little bit too much. At 5, though, we've got the Lakers. Luka's arrival for this team has been nothing short of a godsend, right? It feels like this feels like this was just kind of rigged, right? If there ever was an NBA is rigged moment, it was that one, right? Luka getting traded and at midnight East Coast time to the Los Angeles Lakers out of nowhere. It's been a match made in heaven with him and LeBron, and this is a very, very dangerous team as we get to playoff time. At 4, we've got the Nuggets. They went on a big run before losing to the Lakers last time they played, but this is a Nuggets team that as long as they have Jokic, as long as they continue playing the way that they have been recently, can be a dominant force in the West and potentially even win an NBA title. Heading back east, the Boston Celtics are at 3. This is just a team with no weaknesses. We talk about a three-point shooting barrage. It's the Boston Celtics. You have the guys to do it offensively. Defensively, it's a very, very tough team to stop, and the Boston Celtics continue to be one of the best teams in basketball. And number 2, the Cleveland Cavaliers. I know they now have the best record in basketball after the Thunder dropped one, but I still think overall the Thunder are a better team. I love this Cavs team. Donovan Mitchell continues to be one of my favorite players to watch. Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, that trio right there, as well as throwing in Jarrett Allen, is a very scary starting lineup. And they've done an amazing job this year under Kenny Atkinson in his first year coaching, but I don't think they're quite the best team in basketball. That honor is saved for the Oklahoma City Thunder. And like I said, I know that they gave up that big lead to the Timberwolves last time they played, but this is still a team that, dealing with all the injuries they've dealt with, has been a powerhouse in every sense of the word. If they can get healthy for the playoffs, and that is a big if at this point because it doesn't seem like they're ever going to be allowed to be healthy. They're the best team in basketball, and I still don't think it really is that close. But let me know what you think. Top 10, we've got the Bucks, the Pacers, the Rockets, the Knicks, the Grizzlies, Lakers, Nuggets, Celtics, Cavs, and the Thunder. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this list. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we turn our attention over to the dream offseason for the Los Angeles Rams. What does the perfect offseason look like for a team that's found themselves in the midst of potential turmoil in the last couple weeks? We'll talk about that and much more coming up next here on GSMC's Down by Contact Sports Podcast.